Chapter 7, The Door Home. They climbed the steps in silence. The grey no longer pressed against them. It had become thin and pale, almost peaceful. It was as though the rage that had sustained it for millennia had finally burnt out. The frozen figures still stood throughout the space below, but there was something different about them now. They seemed less trapped and more at rest. "Will they ever wake up?" Sarah asked quietly. "I don't know," Matthew said. His hands had begun tapping again. Tap, tap, tap. But the rhythm was slower now, almost gentle. Perhaps when the grey finishes dying, they'll find their way home. Or perhaps they've been here too long and there's nothing left to wake up. They reached the top of the steps. Above them, through the doorway, the wood between the worlds glowed with green and golden light. It was the most beautiful thing Digory had ever seen. "The moon vase," Matthew said. "Pour it as we go through. It will seal the passage behind us. Nothing will be able to follow." Digory held up the vase. The liquid inside shimmered silver, catching the light from the wood. "Matthew," he said, "before we go, I need you to know something." Matthew looked at him, still tapping, tap, 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 but listening. "What Seris said about the prophecy," Digory continued, "about you being captured because of something I would do. That means all of this, 55 years of this, it was my fault. Not just because I didn't come when I found the vases, but because I was the one she was trying to stop. You suffered for something I was going to do." Matthew was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what I think about prophecies?" he said, finally. "I've had a long time to think about them. 55 years of grey with nothing to do but walk in circles and tap door frames and think. What do you think?" "I think they're traps," Matthew said. "Not for the people they're about, for the people who believe in them." Seris saw a vision of a Kirk brother waking her sister. She couldn't bear the thought of it. So she reached out and grabbed the first Kirk she could find, and she held on with everything she had. And in the end, it didn't matter. The prophecy happened anyway. All she accomplished was making herself miserable and me along with her. He darted up the final steps towards the light of the wood. "If she'd done nothing," he said over his shoulder, "Jadis would still have woken. She would still have gone to Narnia. She would still have been defeated. The only difference is that I wouldn't have spent 55 years in this place." Her hatred didn't change anything. It just added suffering to a story that was going to happen regardless. He stopped at the threshold, 1 foot in the grey, 1 foot in the wood, and he looked back at Digory. "So no," he said, "this wasn't your fault. It wasn't really even Seris's fault, really. She was just doing what hatred does. It was Uncle Andrew's fault for making those wretched rings, and it was my fault for being young and stupid enough to volunteer to test them. Everything else, the prophecy, the grey, all of it, it was just the universe being the universe." He stepped through into the wood. Digory followed, and as he crossed the threshold, he poured the silver liquid, which spread across the grey pool's surface, shimmering and shifting. Below them, the stone steps began to crumble, dissolving into mist. The doorway collapsed inward upon itself, gentle this time, without the violence that they had expected. It was less like a door slamming and more like a sigh. For a moment, just a moment, Digory thought he saw something in the fading grey. A face, a hand raised in what might well have been farewell. Then silence. The grey pool went still, and on its surface, very faintly, one could see the reflection green leaves and blue sky, as though it were deciding whether to become a living pool again or remain forever caught between. Next, the epilogue.